And welcome back to Subculture. Well, right now we've got a guest on our show that we are very, very excited to chat to. Amigo The Devil is coming to Australia, bringing his fantastic show here and also heading across the ditch as well to New Zealand. And we thought today we would actually get Danny, aka Amigo The Devil, on the show to chat about this amazing tour that is coming up. Welcome to the program, mate.
Well, thank you for your time, and trust me, it's been a long time coming. I've been looking forward to being out there for so long.
So, mate, tell us, what is it that you've been looking forward to about coming to Australia? What is it that's drawing you to our fine shores?
Well, when I have been out there before to just kind of roam around and party, it's always intrigued me how many friends I've made, how incredible the people are in terms of just, I use socialization as a very broad term, but I've always had amazing experiences just hanging out. So it's always been an interest to kind of see what the actual playing is like. And, you know, it's since I was a kid, I wanted to play out there. It's one of those goals.
So where
I get the songs that I wrote across the world, like awesome.
So where are some of the places that you've been to in Australia so far when you've been here?
Shamefully, I will say I have only ever been to Melbourne, and I've been there a couple times. Mostly time restraints are what kept me from going anywhere else, and also just the largest concentration of friends that I do have out there. So
yep,
that's another part that I want to explore the rest of it. And this is a pretty good way to do
it. Definitely. You're famous, of course, for writing about your travels. Has Australia ever crept into any of your songs, or is that something that might happen in the future?
I wrote a few songs from Born Against while I was out there. There was a small shop, I don't remember what it was called, but I bought a guitar. It was a little maiden out there. And I was sitting in my hotel room, and I started writing this song called Another Man's Grave. And that trip itself, I was out there alone, and I was kind of feeling very, very low estate moment. And that song felt like that trip to me. And I ended up writing most of it there.
Wow. That's unusual for a lot of artists. I chat to a lot of artists on this show, and a lot of them, when you start talking about writing songs while they're on tour or while they're traveling, they shut up shop and they go, no, I can't write when I'm on the road. You're exactly the opposite. Tell us a little bit about what inspires you to write when you're traveling.
I think it's a constant state of overthinking, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've learned to start processing a lot of that into, I wouldn't say creative concepts. I'm not constantly creative, but I do tend to find purpose or clarity in exploring why I'm feeling a certain way through those means. And sometimes it starts as just a scribble on a page. Sometimes it'll be just a terrible poem that turns into a song, and it's been a very rewarding a journal, I would say. It's almost like a keepsake.
Yep.
I don't even really consider them songs as I'm writing them. It's just a really strong memory attached to somewhere.
One of the things that really strikes me when I listen to your music is how personal it is. You're a storyteller, but you also have a way of bringing a personal story into a track. When you're on a tour like this, do you have a lot of people come up to you and say that a certain track means something's very, very special to them, like it's helped them get through a rough time or it's helping them at that moment? Do you get a lot of that when you're on tour?
We do, yeah, we do. But I think it is mutual. I think a lot of times that I'm struggling on tour, meeting new people and kind of sharing stories with each other also helps me process what I'm going through. So I wouldn't angle it from a perspective of, here is Danny, and then everyone else is talking to me about how the songs are helping. It's very mutual. I would say it makes the shows very special when everybody there understands that we're kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. It's not playing for people, it's playing amongst people. I almost said playing with people, but that's a whole different sentiment and not appropriate right now.
One of the other things I love about this tour is that you're going to some of the cities and some of the smaller towns that get left out of international tours like this, like Wollongong, Newcastle, Canberra, Ballarat, Frankston. Is that something that you love to do on these tours, get out to those cities that often get forgotten on tours like this?
It's very selfish for me. It allows me to explore a lot more areas, but it also allows me to extend my time somewhere. And I think selfishly that is why we kept adding to the initial routing, is because I just wanted to be out there for longer. And they're like, all right, well, here's what we have to add to make it longer. I was like, perfect.
Now, you're going to one of my favourite towns in my home state, Ballarat. To me, that is an absolutely amazing town because it is the town of one man that I think you're going to find very, very fascinating if you look into him while you're there. That is the home of Peter Lalor, who in the early days of Australia did lead the first rebellion that we ever had here in Australia against the British troops. An absolutely amazing story. It led to what was called the Eureka Stockade. So when you're in Ballarat, if you want to look up a little bit of the history of the Eureka Stockade, I think you'd be very, very impressed with Peter Lalor.
I am writing that down right now so I don't forget.
Yep. There's a great little centre that they've set up just outside of town that looks at the Eureka Stockade and looks at what Peter Lalor did. But yeah, basically, he was almost considered one of Australia's biggest outlaws at the time because he led a rebellion for the miners against all the unfair taxes and everything that was brought in for them. And the rebellion only lasted a day, but it was one of the most bloodiest days in Australian history. So yeah, I think you'll find that really fascinating.
Oh, was that like mid-1800s or late? Mid-1800s?
Yeah, mid-1800s, yep.
I am going to be doing a lot of research on this. Thank you for that.
No worries. Is that the kind of thing that happens for you, though, when you travel, though, that you do look into local things like that and go and explore things like that?
Oh, yeah. That's a lot. That's one of my favorite parts of tour. Yep. Especially when it comes from somebody who gives me a localized version of the history, because you can broaden history and read about it, but then when you find out about things from actual, blood in the community, it genuinely is kind of digging into the pulse of it, and that's, to me, my favorite way of traveling.
Definitely. And it's interesting because our most famous outlaw here in Australia is, of course, Ned Kelly. And when people talk about him, it's almost 50-50. Half the people that talk about Ned Kelly see him as a hero that stood up to the patriarchy, and the other half see him as a cop killer and someone that shouldn't be celebrated. But with Peter Lalor and the Eureka Stockade, I think just about 100% of the people that you chat to see him as a hero, as someone that went, you know what, we're not going to cop these taxes, these unfair taxes and the corruption that's going on. We're going to fight back. So, yeah, it's interesting in that sense that while a lot of people think of Australia and think of Ned Kelly, Peter Lalor's probably considered a bit more of a hero for the working class.
See, that's so rad. Also, I did get in trouble with the Ned Kelly thing one time that I was out there.
Yeah.
Because somebody was very dissatisfied with my interest in it. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way.
So mate, tell us a little bit about your shows. You make such amazing music and such amazing tracks. What is it like coming along to one of your shows and watching you live? What do you try to bring to your live show?
I think I've always struggled. Well, in the beginning, since I was playing solo in the beginning, and I will be solo out there, it was a learning curve of how to present these songs in the most honest way I could, while allowing people to feel not yelled at, not sang at. I don't really love the idea of performing at people.
Yep.
So it took a little while, but I think at this point I'm fairly comfortable with just genuinely being okay with making mistakes, making light of it, and not taking the show itself too seriously.
Yep.
Which tends to loosen up the atmosphere of the room itself, and I think people go into them, and I'm assuming here, I can't say everybody, but in a broad sense, I think some people go in expecting there's going to be this spooky, dark, just devastating, moody thing, and it really isn't. It is more of a lighthearted party with a couple of sad moments in between. And I'd say we run the gamut of emotional instability. That's what the show is. It is.
Now, of course, we've just had Yours Until the War Is Over delivered to us, and it's an absolutely amazing album. But what have you got planned for your fans for the rest of 2024? Are you already working on new music, or what are the plans there?
I know we are touring quite a bit. We always do tour quite a bit. It is a heavily tour-specific band, just because we all love being on tour. And the fact that I am able to write while out also allows new music to kind of shape itself around those moments, around those tours. So there's always, to some degree, new music being worked on. I do have a plan for the next record, and it's coming together nicely. I'm hoping that we can get it done between tours this year, but that's no promises. It's very much a we'll see what happens kind of mood. So the only thing I can promise is that we're touring a lot.
Definitely. Well, mate, we are looking forward to this tour so much. So I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to your fans out there here in Australia before this tour? Some of the shows have already sold out and you've had to add new shows. So what would you like to say to your fans out there before they go out and grab tickets for these amazing shows?
I mean, as simple as it is, I really cannot thank you all enough for making this tour a completely unexpected just success in terms of the ticket sales and all that. I really, really didn't expect the reaction to be so positive. So I just thank you for showing your friends the songs. Thank you for dragging people along to the shows, and I really, really look forward to just kind of interacting with everybody and meeting a bunch of new friends.